I never thought a glass of water could change everything. But then again, I never thought I'd end up working on my uncle's farm that summer either, sweating through my shirt before 9 in the morning, questioning every life choice that led me to this dusty corner of nowhere. I was 26 and supposedly had it all figured out. Corporate job in the city, nice apartment, a girlfriend who looked perfect in photos. But something was missing, like I was living someone else's carefully curated life. When my uncle called asking if I wanted to help out for the summer while his regular hand recovered from surgery, I said yes before I could overthink it. My girlfriend thought I was having some kind of crisis. Maybe I was. The farm was 3 hours from anything resembling civilization, rolling fields of wheat and corn, a barn that had seen better decades, and a farmhouse where my uncle lived alone since my aunt passed. He was a man of few words, which suited me fine. I wasn't ready to explain why a guy with a business degree was suddenly interested in manual labor in early mornings. That's where I met him. Eli, the farmhand who'd been working there for 2 years, who knew every inch of that land like it was written in his bones. He was maybe a year or 2 younger than me, all lean muscle and sun-bronzed skin, with dark hair that curled at his neck and eyes the color of honey in sunlight. When my uncle introduced us that first morning, Eli shook my hand with calluses that told stories of real work, and something in his smile made my stomach flip in a way I didn't want to examine. I told myself it was just the heat, the disorientation of being somewhere new. Those first few days were brutal. My body wasn't used to physical labor, and by noon I'd be drenched in sweat, muscles screaming. Eli never said much, but I'd catch him watching me sometimes, this unreadable expression on his face. Not judgment exactly, more like curiosity, or maybe amusement at the city boy trying to prove something. It was the 4th day when everything shifted. We were out in the back 40, mending fence posts in what had to be 90-degree heat. The sun was merciless, turning the whole world into shimmering waves. I'd forgotten to bring water, stupid rookie mistake, and I could feel myself getting dizzy, my mouth dry as the dust under our boots. I didn't hear him walk up. One moment I was hammering a post, vision starting to blur at the edges, and the next moment Eli was there, standing close enough that I could smell earth and sweat and something clean underneath. He was holding out a mason jar filled with water, condensation beating on the glass like tiny diamonds. "Drink," he said. Just that one word, but his voice was low and careful, like he was gentling a spooked horse. I took the jar, our fingers brushing in the transfer, and that simple touch sent electricity straight up my arm. I told myself I was imagining it, heat exhaustion playing tricks. But when I looked up, Eli was watching me with an intensity that made my breath catch. I drank. The water was cold and perfect, and I didn't realize how thirsty I'd been until it hit my tongue. I drank deeply, feeling it cool me from the inside out. And the whole time Eli stood there watching me, not just glancing, watching. His eyes tracked the movement of my throat as I swallowed, the way my lips touched the rim of the glass, every single drop I took in. It was the most intimate thing I'd ever experienced, and we weren't even touching. When I finished, I lowered the jar slowly, and our eyes met. There was something in his gaze that made my heart hammer against my ribs. Recognition, maybe. Or permission. Like he was asking a question without words, and I was answering just by not looking away. "Thanks," I managed, my voice rougher than the moment called for. He took the jar back, fingers brushing mine again, deliberate this time. "Can't have you passing out on me," he said, but there was something underneath the casual words, something that made them mean more. After that, everything changed. Or maybe nothing changed, but I started noticing things I'd been trying not to see. The way Eli moved through the world with this quiet confidence, comfortable in his own skin in a way I'd never been. How he'd show up at exactly the right moment with water, with a tool I needed, with a hand to steady me when I stumbled. Small gestures that felt enormous. We started talking more. Real talking, not just work instructions, during lunch breaks in the shade of the barn or in the evening when the work was done and the air finally cooled. He told me about growing up in a small town, even smaller than this, about coming out at 17 and having to leave, about finding peace in the simplicity of farm work, in things that grew and changed with the seasons. I found myself telling him things I'd never told anyone. About feeling lost in my own life, about the girlfriend I was pretty sure I was staying with out of habit and fear rather than love, about this persistent feeling that I was performing a version of myself rather than actually living. "Maybe you're just figuring out who you actually are," Eli said one evening, both of us sitting on the porch steps watching the sun set over the fields. "That's not a crisis. That's just being honest." The way he looked at me when he said it made something crack open in my chest. I started finding excuses to work alongside him instead of taking the separate tasks my uncle assigned. Started waking up earlier so I could catch those quiet moments before the day really began, when Eli would be in the barn preparing equipment, and the world felt full of possibility. Started staying up later, hoping he'd linger after dinner to talk. My uncle noticed but didn't comment, just gave me these knowing looks that made me wonder what he saw that I was still trying not to name. It was 2 weeks into my stay when things came to a head. We were working in the cornfield, the stalks tall enough to hide us from the rest of the world. It was brutally hot again, and I'd learned my lesson about water, but Eli still brought me some mid-morning, appearing between the rows like something I'd conjured. This time when I drank, he stepped closer. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his skin, close enough to see the gold flecks in his eyes. I lowered the jar slowly, and neither of us moved. The air between us felt electric, charged with everything we hadn't said. "You know what you're doing to me?" His voice was barely above a whisper, rough with something that made my whole body respond. I couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't hide behind excuses or denial. "I think I'm doing it to myself too," I said, and it felt like the most honest thing I'd said in years. He reached out, his hand cupping the back of my neck, his thumb brushing the edge of my jaw, and I thought I might combust from that simple touch. "Tell me to stop," he said, but he was already leaning in, giving me every opportunity to pull away. I didn't pull away. I closed the distance between us and kissed him, there in the middle of the cornfield with the sun beating down, and the whole world narrowed to the taste of him, the feel of his mouth on mine, the way his other hand gripped my hip like he was afraid I might disappear. It was nothing like kissing my girlfriend. Nothing like any kiss I'd had before. This was want and recognition and coming home all at once. This was every question I'd been afraid to ask, answered in the press of lips and the slide of tongue, and the small sound he made when I pulled him closer. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "Been wanting to do that since the day you showed up," he admitted. "Why didn't you?" "Had to wait for you to catch up to yourself." He smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "Worth the wait, though." We were more careful after that, aware that my uncle's farm wasn't exactly progressive territory, but we found our moments. Stolen kisses in the barn, his hand finding mine in the darkness of the porch at night, the way he'd press close when he was showing me how to do something, using proximity as an excuse for touch. I called my girlfriend one evening, standing in the field with the phone to my ear and my heart in my throat. She took it better than I expected, like maybe she'd known before I did. "I hope you find what you're looking for," she said, and I realized I already had. My uncle pulled me aside one morning, and I braced myself for the worst. Instead, he just looked at me with these knowing eyes and said, "That boy's good people. Treats the land right, treats people right. You could do worse." Then he walked away, leaving me standing there with tears in my eyes and gratitude flooding through me. The summer was supposed to end. I was supposed to go back to the city, back to my old life, back to pretending. But as the weeks passed and August turned the fields golden, I couldn't imagine leaving. Couldn't imagine waking up without Eli's smile, without the satisfaction of work that meant something, without this feeling of finally being exactly who I was supposed to be. "Stay," Eli said one night, both of us lying in the grass looking up at more stars than I'd ever seen in the city. "The farm's big enough for 3. Your uncle's not getting any younger, and he paused, turning to look at me. "I don't want this to be just a summer thing." "It's not," I said, certain in a way I'd never been certain of anything. It never was. I think about that first glass of water sometimes, how something so simple became everything. How being seen, really seen, by someone who wasn't afraid to look was the thing I'd been missing all along. How thirst comes in different forms, and sometimes you don't know you're dying of it until someone offers you exactly what you need. I stayed. Quit the job, broke the lease, built a life that looks nothing like what I thought I wanted, and everything like what I actually need. The farm's ours now, mine and Eli's, my uncle having retired to a little house in town. We work the land together, wake up together, build something real together. And on hot summer days when we're out in the fields, Eli still brings me water, still watches me drink every drop with that same intensity that first made me understand what I'd been running from. But now when I lower the glass, I can kiss him, can pull him close and taste the sunshine on his skin and know that this exact life is mine. Sometimes the thing you need most is offered by unexpected hands. Sometimes you have to let yourself be thirsty enough to accept it. Sometimes a glass of water is just the beginning of learning how to be satisfied, how to be full, how to finally be yourself. I never thought a glass of water could change everything, but I also never thought I could be this happy, this certain, this completely and utterly myself. Turns out I was wrong about a lot of things. Turns out the life I needed was waiting in a dusty field, offered by calloused hands and honey-colored eyes and a heart patient enough to let me find my way home. Total_char_count 11,247.